folks, Anne McKinnell here. So I just bought this beast of a lens. It's a 150-600mm Tamron lens that I'm planning on using for wildlife photography. And I brought it out here this morning to the estuary to photograph some birds and some deer that were in the estuary, and it's terrible. All of the photos that I took are horribly out of focus. So there are lots of things that can go wrong that can cause your photos to be out of focus, and I wouldn't go blaming the lens first thing normally, but I'm pretty confident. I've been doing this for a while. I'm pretty confident that my camera settings are good and my technique is good, and so I think the problem here is in fact the lens. So what I'm going to do to try to solve this situation is to calibrate the lens. Now, one would hope that you buy a brand new lens and spend $1,000 that you could put it on your camera and everything would be fine, and sometimes it is, but sometimes it isn't, and you kind of have to calibrate your lens to work with your camera. So how I'm going to do that is with this fancy little tool. It's a SpyderLENSCAL lens calibrating system. So it's just a little kind of thin, flimsy piece of plastic here with a ruler on it. You can get these for about $60. I used to have a paper pyramid thing that I absolutely hated, and I think you can even make these yourself. You can print it out and make it, but for the cost of what it is, you can be assured that everything is set up properly, and you can use it to calibrate your expensive lens and all your other lenses. And this is something you should probably do once every year or so, just to make sure that everything is working the way you want it to. So how you use this is you focus on this little tiny square right here. And then when you look at your photo in your computer after, ideally the 0 on the ruler will be perfectly in focus. Now if it isn't, then you'll be able to tell if your lens is front focusing or back focusing, and by exactly how much. And then you can set a micro adjustment in your camera. My camera is a Canon 7D Mark II. It allows me to set micro adjustments for each of my lenses. But this lens actually comes with software of its own, and it lets me set micro adjustments for a variety of focal lengths and a variety of distances from the camera to the subject. So I'm about ready to start my test, but the first thing I want to make sure is that everything is set up for the test, so I know my test results are good. So first of all, I want to make sure everything is as stable as possible. I've got both of these things set up on a tripod, and they're also level. So, you know, the middle of my lens is going to be about at where the square is, so I'm not looking up or looking down. Now, my camera is set up on a gimbal head here, but everything is locked down. So I've got everything, the tilt and the pan is locked, everything's locked, so it's not going to go anywhere. As for the camera settings, I've got this set up to one-shot autofocus. I have it set to, let's see, my image stabilization is off because everything is solid here. And I've got my ISO set to 100. I've got my aperture set as low as it will go, so I'm shooting wide open. And I'll just let the shutter speed fall where it may because I'm on a tripod here, so shutter speed really doesn't matter. And also, what's one more thing? Oh, I'm going to use my 2-second timer, so I know that I'm not introducing any camera shake when I press the shutter. So I think that's all the camera settings I have done. So now, what I'm going to do is set up my camera and my lens calibrator so that they are the right distance. The first distance that I have, the minimum focal distance for this lens, is 2.2 meters. Which is about 7 feet. So I'm going to set this 7 feet apart and do my test at 150 millimeters and at 200, 300, 400, 500, and 600. And then I will move them farther apart So I think the second one is 66 feet, and then I'll move it farther for infinity. And we'll see. It'll be interesting here to find out if it's front focusing or back focusing or both, or hopefully something's in focus. All right, let's get started. Okay, so here I go. I'm at 150 millimeters, and I'm just going to make sure that my autofocus point is exactly on those tiny squares. And I'm going to focus and take the shot. Okay, and now I'm just going to change this to 200 millimeters. Focus, take the shot. And 300. 400. 500. And 600. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing, but get farther away from my subject. So I'm going to move my camera back, do the same thing, then I'm going to move my camera back even further and do the same thing again. Okay?